All right, the topic that we're moving into, which we're just getting a light intro into it today, and we'll do more in-depth throughout the chapter as we go. This chapter, I think, has 6 sections, but we mix a couple of them together. We don't do all 6. So this is probably one of our last main chapters. Then the last one that I said, because this is one of our last main tests we'll take, we have one more section unit that we do after this, where it's just kind of a mixed bag of different things, but they all are tied together. So we'll kind of look at it. So here's the idea. The section we're in section 3.1, which is called Exponentials.
Wait, what? We're in section 3?
Yeah, so I said we jump around quite a bit in this book to get certain things in certain order. This is one of those topics I always like to do near the end of the year, because it'll apply to seniors that are leaving, more to you guys than anyone else, because of what you're going to hopefully be going into after high school here. So my goal today, let's intro and let's talk about what the definition of an exponential is. Once we get through that definition, I want to do 3 things that are more, practical use problems that I want to just intro today. We'll kind of go into them more. The practical use problems that I want to discuss is simple interest loans, that you're going to be probably using it throughout your life. So simple interest loans, compound interest loans.
Do we do some of this in college too?
Yeah, I'm almost betting you probably have, which would be a good thing. I'm hoping that you have seen this before. And then the last one, which I don't know if you guys have seen yet, is called continuously compound.
Is it the PERT formula?
Yes.
Oh, I remember it.
Okay. Now, what these are, just to discuss what we're kind of going into. I should say compounded. There we go. Simple interest loans is any type of loan that you take out through a bank that it's going to be paid over a very small time frame, and it's got a set interest, it's got a set time frame that you're going to pay it back over. Simple interest loans are if you take a loan out for, let's say you're going to buy a computer, if you're going to buy a car, like those are simple interest loans. Okay? They're easy to pay back. They have very low interest rates, so the bill in the long run is very low, and it gets you the object like immediately that you need. But it also builds credit. That's something that a lot of people don't think about when they're trying to get a loan for like student loans or a mortgage, that you do need credit, like a credit score. Credit score is a mythical number. It's literally a made-up number that banks and institutions apply to your name and to your social security number. That basically is just a made-up, fabricated number that gives banks or institutions confidence that you are able to pay the money back that you borrow, or that you're an upstanding citizen in certain rights, that you won't default, or you have a job. It puts a lot of different things in perspective. Things that, what my parents did when I was in high school, just to get me started, to make sure I had credit going into college, because they knew they weren't going to pay for my college at all. So they had me take out simple interest loans to buy certain objects when I was in high school, because I had a job throughout high school, freshman year now, so that I had credit when I got to college. That way I can get student loans. Because the reason why, on simple interest loans, very easy. I think my first loan I ever took out was freshman year. I bought a computer with it, just a simple notebook computer. And then my second loan was a car. I bought a truck. And that was my 2 loans in high school that I had to pay off myself. And that built credit, because by the time I got to college, my senior year, my parents made too much money, so I didn't get any financial aid, like 0. They made too much money and they didn't pay for any of my college either. So that's the worst, because you have to fill out your like FAFSA, like how much money your parents make and stuff. And college instantly denied me any student loans, because my parents made way too much money, but they weren't paying it either. So that was like the worst of both worlds. Yeah, huge, big time. So, and that was the worst part about that, is that denied me a lot of my student loans, or not student loans, but it denied me that. But it also denied me scholarships, because my parents made too much money. So it was daggered both ways. But the idea is that it built me credit.
Where did you work in high school?
I worked at a movie store in Clear Lake. But the idea was that by taking out those loans, I built a bunch of credit up, so that way when I got to my freshman year, I could take out a student loan through I think it was a private loan, but companies would allow you to do it, to pay for my student housing and my actual tuition to Iowa State. And we'll do some calculations today with this stuff to show you like what my debt was coming out of college. So you can actually see it, because it was massive.
Did they accrue interest while you were in school?
Yeah, it accrues interest, and then, and it's not that bad, because the interest at the time that I was in school was really low. Nowadays, like, interest rates are like huge.
But yeah, but they don't, normally they don't start until you graduate.
Yeah, these are private loans.
Oh.
So it's not like a student loan. So yeah, so I'll just show you the student loan version. I want to show you the private loan. But yeah, it's painful. But then compound interest is applied to student loans. That's the one that you're talking about, that you get your student loan through college, and then at the very end, it's like 6 months after you graduate, that's when your first bill comes. A lot of people always forget that. So if you graduate in May, you get it December 1st, and it's due December 30th, your first student loan payment. Okay? Unless you continue school, and then you can postpone it again. But then, so any compound interest is student loans, mortgages on a house, so that's a house loan basically, home loan, and then credit cards are compound interest. Compound interest is different than simple interest. Simple interest is when you take a loan and they charge you a fee per year that you stretch the loan out of. So let's say I bought a car. My first car was I think it was a 5-year loan, or it was 4 years because I had to pay it off before I was graduating. So it was a 4-year loan, and they charged me a small fee every year that I had the loan. So they charged me for 4 years of having that loan. So it was just a small percent. Okay, we'll see that number here in a minute. And then when you do compound interest, they charge you interest every month you don't pay it off. So you have your loan coming out of college, let's say December 30th, I got my first bill. If I didn't pay off my entire student loan, what I call student loans, it was private loans, my entire student private loan, it charged me interest December 31st, January 1st. So there was a small fee added on. And then I paid it over January 1st to January 30th. And if I didn't pay it all off, they charged another charge. And that's what student loans are. So you're actually paying way more money for your education than you think you are. And when I did this calculation years ago, when I was in high school, or not in high school, but when I was first year coming out of college, I about had a heart attack. Okay, I'm not joking. Like, when you see this number, you're like, Ward, you did not. I will officially pay off my student loans in 2.5 years from now. Okay, it's 20-year loan, so it's about two. I've been paying more, but when you see the number that I paid, it's painful. What I paid for my education for 4.5 years at Iowa State.
Would you recommend going to a 2-year college first?
Yeah. Yeah. Even though I love Iowa State, go to a community college, or get a ton of scholarships.
Yeah, let's get a full ride like Reese.
Or yeah. All right. Now, continuously compounded problems. This type of loan or this type of bank is anytime you have a savings account, or you have some interest building on like a retirement account, life account, like a life insurance account. Those things are compounded continuously. What that means is every second of the day, there's some interest being built on it. So when you want to collect, they can calculate it down to the second when you want to collect that money, and they will charge you whatever the fee is, or they'll give you whatever the interest is over that time of the year. So that's any type you do a savings account. We'll if we have time, we'll do this today and tomorrow. We'll look at all 3 different accounts, and what we're going to try to do is look at the differences of what it would be if you did like a small loan, like a car loan, but you did it like with a simple interest loan versus if you used a credit card to buy that car, or if you used a continuous, like let's say you put that money into a savings account over that same period, what would the interest be? And the reason I want to show you this is it's a real life example, something you should actually think about before you ever take a loan, or you ever have to take a loan, or you have to go, let's say you get a credit card. You should be thinking about these things before you start, because it is terrifying once you get into it, especially like student loans. It's not like a small chunk of change. Like student loans are big pots of money that you have to pay over a long term.
Very valuable.
I'll talk about some of the weird shady stuff that companies have done in years past and other things where people try to work this system a little bit to get, to make more money in the long run. So I'll talk about it a little bit. But that's kind of our idea. Now what an exponential is, let's start there. This is an exponential that we're going into. Okay, it's a long, I know that was a long intro into what we're going into, but this is
interesting stuff.
I like this stuff. This stuff is really cool. It's really practical, but it's easy stuff. You just have a calculator and instantly pound out a number. Okay. This is an exponential. It's taking a digit, a base, and putting it to some exponent. Okay, but the difference here of why this is different than, let's say, an Algebra 2 class or an Algebra 1 class, we're not taking a variable and putting it to a power. We have it switched. So now the power is the variable. So that's the difference. Now why this would apply to what we're doing here? Like if we do a simple interest loan. Simple interest, you take some amount of money, which they call a principal amount of money. And you take that and you take it times some interest rate.
7%.
Okay, some interest rate, and then you take it times the amount of time that you're going to go, and that time is usually in years. That's all the calculation is. Everything on that problem, because you're just multiplying three numbers together, all the numbers are whole numbers and they all have powers of ones. Okay, ones on them, right? That's all it is. But when you start getting into compound interest, now we have to put variables in the powers, and you'll start to see the differences of these. And that's where it gets crazy and how the numbers explode. Because if you've never seen this graph before, like what this actually looks like over time, this is the rough graph. Okay, it looks something like this. That when you get to 0 and you put a 0 up here in the power, 2 to the 0 is the number 1. Okay. Okay. When you put a 1 in there, then your answer is 2. But when you put a 2, now it's 4. And so
they grow.
Yeah, it grows really fast.
Exponentially.
So yeah, that's the idea, right? But the idea is that why this is important is because this gives you the sense for how student loans work. The more money you borrowed,
the more gobs you got to be at the end.
the higher this thing goes and the quicker it goes in the long run over time. It's not like you're borrowing $2. Like that's what literally that problem is. You're borrowing $2 over time.
Okay?
We're borrowing thousands of dollars, and you're going over 20 years of paying it back. Because most student loans, a lot of people don't know, private loans, student loans, or financial, what do they call it? Federal student loans, whatever they call them. Those things, those are a 20-year loan. That's the default term that you pay it over.
Don't
20
the government
years.
loans not have interest though?
No. Federal student loans definitely do. It's just lower interest rates. Right now, the interest rate, they say it's low. It's painful to look
What
at.
is it?
9%.
That's crops.
That's a lot when you see it over, like, I think 1 year Iowa State's $23,000. 9% over 1 year is a lot of money. Okay, and you're paying that back over time.
It is $2,000 a year.
Yeah, and so you have to be thinking
Wow.
about.
41,000.
We have to. The calculation is different than that. Okay, so don't be like, oh my gosh, you know, the number is different. How they do student loans and stuff. So it's not that thing. Okay. So let's start with this simple interest, and I want to talk you through it. Then we'll talk about student loans, so I'm not like stressing you out a little bit, even though it does stress me out just thinking about it. All right. Principal loan. Let's talk about my first car. My first car that I bought was $4,300. I bought a little Chevy S10 pickup. Okay, it was $4,300. That was a lot of money. That's still a lot of money, but it was a lot of money for a freshman buying a truck in high school. Okay, and so I worked all the time after school and stuff. The interest rate on my loan at the time, I actually got a pretty decent interest rate. I thought at the time it was 3%. So the idea is that 3% is 0.03. That's 3%. And then the time that I borrowed this loan over. The loan that I borrowed, I think I did a 4-year loan, I think at the time. 3-year loan. So what you do is you multiply this together, and what this does for you is this number will actually be what my interest is over 4 years. Okay? That's the interest over 4 years. Okay, so if I have my calculator here, what was it? $516. Okay. So over 4 years, my interest was $516. That's not bad. I got the truck immediately, like the day I took up the loan, I went and bought the truck instantly, it was mine, and I was driving it the next day. Okay? That, for some people, that $516 is a lot of money. It is, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money. But I had the truck instantly, I could go to work, I could start paying it off, and it got me that thing now. And over the long run, over 4 years, $516
Is not much.
is not much over 4 years. You know, if you think about it, $516.
I mean, that's like 48 whole months.
So yeah, so $516 divided by 48 months,
$10.
that's $10 a month. So just don't go to McDonald's or don't go to Hardee's once a month, and you're fine. You know, you're roughly, you know, or don't go to Java and get 2 coffees, you know, over a month or something like that. So to me, it was like getting that truck now paid for itself because it got me to work and it got me, you know, to paying the bill back. Okay, but here's the idea. Here's the idea. What I was paying per month, I was paying $4,300 plus the $516. So total, I was paying $4,816 over 4 years, and I divided that by 48 months. So I was paying $100 a month, and that's almost exactly what I was paying. That's really crazy. So it must have been 3%. So I think
Mr. Ward, you were 16 as a freshman?
no. So
How did you drive it? Or did you just buy it?
student. I got a student permit, so I could drive there and I could drive to work too. So, but the idea is that I was paying that back every month. I was working, I think at the time, which was illegal. I think I was working 35 hours a week
Oh my!
after school, and I was in 4 sports.
How much were you making an hour?
How did you do that?
$8 an hour.
How did you possibly do that?
That is roughly
I remember.
$280 a week.
Here's one of my normal Fridays. I would get out of school at 3:15. I would go to work until 5 o'clock, 5:30. Get off work, go play a JV basketball game. Come back at 7 o'clock because I wasn't in varsity at the time and close until 11.
That's
How'd you do school?
That's weird. Why would they?
Yeah,
allow
when
you
did
to
you
do
do
that?
school there?
They changed a lot of the rules since then. So
Wait.
now you can't even work past what 9 or 10 o'clock.
It's
anymore?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock
where
now.
I work.
That should be the way it should have been. But I mean, and then Saturdays I would work from morning to close. I'd come in at 8 in the morning and I'd work until 11 at night.
And
Honestly,
so-
why did you work there? That's disgusting.
Yeah. So
well, yeah, but it wasn't that busy at like 8 o'clock at Tuesday night?
no. So what I did a lot of times, and I shouldn't be recording this, I did a lot of my homework just on the counter because no one was in there. So
Wait,
no
where
one
did
was
you
renting.
work?
That's what we do at the biking.
Yeah, in the back, if nobody's there, you just do your homework.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I did a lot of
During the
calls
school
and
year,
a lot of
that
my
is-
homework just on the counter.
I mean, did they get shut down? So I guess it
No.
doesn't really matter.
Now, hey, just think about this. That was $100 a month, and I paid that over 4 years when I was in high school. That means I was continuously working all day, every day, and especially when summer came.
It's
And
11
I was
bucks
in,
a
I was
month.
in, I was in almost every sport. I was in cross country, basketball, golf. I think summer was the only time I did do something, so I was a 3-sport. But that was a lot. That was a lot for a freshman going through high school. Now, the other thing was after because I did pay a little more every once in a while. I think I paid off in like 3 years. But I did also take out a student loan for, or not a student loan, but I took out a loan for a computer at the time. Because I needed a computer for high school, I wanted to type reports. My family we had like a home computer, but we didn't have something for each of us, so I bought my own computer at the time.
Is that when it started?
Yeah, I had years before that, but I bought a computer then.
What
and,
kind?
I think at the time I bought a laptop. At the time, I didn't buy an Apple and I regretted it. I bought a compact computer at the time. They were big, but I paid like $1,200 for it, and like at the time it was like $1,200. That's a lot. Back in like '96,
That's a ton.
that was a lot of money. Like that was a very nice high-end.
That's probably like a $2,000 computer now.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time that it had a 15-inch screen. That was the first one that ever came out. It had a DVD player for the first time. It was like in a laptop. Like they had DVD players and stuff, but it was the first time in a laptop they ever put one in there. It was cool. But anyways,
Did you work that much all through high school?
Yeah.
That means you made over $53,000 in 4 years.
no, I didn't work that many days in a row. Don't get me wrong, I didn't make that.
Oh, too bad. Because that'd be so cool if you made 60 grand.
I think I was making like $8,500 a year or something like
That's
that.
pretty good though.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a high schoall kid. So
Times 4, I mean, that's still $34,000.
yeah, over a couple years. Yeah, I made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, now Okay, now here's the idea. After that loan, then we move it on to student loans. And now you're gonna see the difference here. So, Iowa State, 4.5 years. Okay, now here's the actual calculation for how compound interest is different from like for student loans. This is the formula for a compound interest student loan. Okay, now what this means, the P is principal, so this is the amount of money that I'm borrowing. The R is obviously my rate. Now my rate for my student loans was astronomically low compared to what you guys have. My student loans, when I consolidated after 4.5 years at Iowa State, it was, the rate itself was 1.7%.
Oh my.
Which is the lowest I think it's ever been. Okay. Nowadays it's 9%. Okay.
You only gotta pay 4 times as much as more.
I can tell you what happened, but it wouldn't be politically correct. All right. N is the number of times it compounds. Well, it compounds 12 times a year because it's every month, once a month. It's monthly. Okay. So then it's 12, and then for a student loan, we go over 20 years.
That's gobs right there.
We go 20 years. I've been paying a little more, so mine technically, I would be paying it back 17 years roughly. I paid a little more each month to make sure it can get less than 20. It's still stupidly high, you're about to see it. Now, my principal. Now, Iowa State was significantly cheaper back when I was in school.